Hello, today we're going to be talking about intonation and dynamics. So we're going to start with intonation. And if you'll recall in one of my previous videos, I actually told you to never have your flute pushed all the way in. Well, right now, just to prove you, I have my flute pushed all the way in. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to play an F, and I have my tuner here. And so if the line goes away from me, kind of like it was briefly there for a moment, then that means that I'm playing flat. And then if it's over on this side, if it's closer to me, then that means that I'm playing sharp. And whenever the whole thing goes green, that's when I'm finally playing in tune. Like I said, I'll be playing an F today. And so what happens when you push the flute all the way in is you're going to be a little bit sharp. So let's just see if that's the case. Yep, I'm definitely sharp. I'm about halfway in between an F and an F sharp, which that's 2 sharp. And if I play an F, this is the actual pitch of an F. And so when I play my F with the head joint pushed all the way in, we're actually 2 very distinct pitches. So what I'm going to do, I need to bring the pitch down. So since I'm playing sharp, I need to make the flute go flatter, or like I said, bring the pitch down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the head joint, not all the way out, but it's going to pull it out quite a bit just so you can see what the extremes are. So now you can see this is probably too far for you, for your flute, but it kind of all depends. Every flute's a little bit different. So we'll just see where mine's at now. And now I'm flat, almost to the opposite degree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and split the difference, go about halfway in between them, and then just go in. So I pushed it in because I was playing too low. There's a lot of different ways that you can think about it. If you're able to just remember it, one way is pushing out. You do when you're sharp, and you push in when you're flat. Yeah, that's right. You can do that. My band instructor in about 7th or 8th grade, when he started not just telling us to push out or push in, but that we were flat or we were sharp, was that he said to think of it like a pencil sharpener. If you're playing flat, when a pencil is flat, you're going to push it in more so you can sharpen it. And so you're going to push the flute head joint in. And when you're playing sharp, when the pencil is sharp, that's when you pull the pencil out and you're good to go. You're going to pull the head joint out whenever you're sharp. So again, let's just see how the F goes. And I think my tuner might be frozen, so I might have to start again. Yep, looks like my tuner froze, so just hold on a moment. We'll let it reboot up. There we go. Try again. Still just a little bit flat. And so as it said tune up. So I'll push the head joint in just a little bit. See where we're at. That was pretty good for the most part. I had the whole screen green, which means that I was right in tune. And if anything, you saw at the end, I was starting to get just a little bit flat. I was also running out of air, so I have to be aware of that. Those are the major changes. You're going to pull the head joint out when you're getting in tune with the rest of the band, or if you're getting in tune with the piano. And so you'll do that before you even play. Now, while you're playing, you start to notice that maybe your F doesn't quite sound in pitch anymore, but all the rest of them do. All the rest sound like you're playing the same note as everybody else. But when you're playing an F, you might be playing too high or too low or something. So what you can do while you're playing is that you can roll in, you can roll the entire flute in, you can roll the entire flute out. And so when you roll in, you're actually going to lower the pitch. So if you're playing a note and you sound higher than everybody else, that's when you want to roll in. So let me see if I can demonstrate that for you with the tuner. Yeah, so hopefully you saw that it moved across the screen while I was rolling. Now I'm going to roll out to get sharper. So if I'm playing lower than everybody else, I need to roll the flute out away from my face in order to bring the pitch up. So let's try that now. Yeah, kind of got a little funky there because I wasn't quite hitting the F just right anymore. But hopefully you were still able to see that happen. So in the very rare case, and this is only in an emergency, you might have to talk to your band instructor if, let's say you have your flute pushed all the way in, but you're still playing flat. Or if you end up pulling the head joint almost all the way out and you're still playing sharp, that means that it's not something that you can just fix within an inch of the head joint. You're going to have to take the head joint out, and you're going to have to take it to your band instructor or your private voice teacher. Don't ever do this yourself. But they're going to take your cleaning rod too, and there's a little notch. This is just for you to know. There's a little bitty notch right here. So what they're going to do is they're going to put the cleaning rod inside your head joint until it reaches the cork. And if the cork is loose, then you need to send it to a repairman immediately. And you don't want to lose the crown or the cork because those will cost $60 to $100 to replace. So you don't want it to get loose and you don't want to lose them. So you can kind of see here maybe is that the notch is just about in the center of the embouchure hole, which is exactly where you want it to. If you have the notch closer to one side than the other, or if you even can't see it, which that's definitely something to be concerned about, what your teacher is going to do is they're going to push the cork out of the flute, so they'll push it in this direction if the line needs to move that direction in order to get into tune. And the same is that they'll push the cork back into the flute if they need to get the notch to go in the other direction. But don't ever do that yourself. Always have the band instructor do that. You don't want to have to pay $60 to $100 for if your flute is messed up, if you accidentally do something to the cork. One last thing we're going to talk about is how temperature affects the flute. And temperature affects all of the instruments, and with the flute, when it's hot outside, the flute is actually going to play sharp. I'm sorry, I think that's right. Let me double check. Yes, the flute will play sharp when it's hot outside. So in the summer months, you're going to have your head joint pulled out a lot further than you will in the winter months when it's cold. So that's the outside temperature affecting the flute, but the flute also has its temperature. When you first pull the flute out of the case, you're going to notice that it's pretty cold. I've been playing mine for just a little while, so it's warmed up a little bit. But what flute players will tend to do is they're going to close all the keys, and you can see I don't have any keys open. Make sure that if you have the open holes that you have them completely covered. And what you're going to do is you're going to blow air actually into the flute. So not playing a note, it'll sound like this. Or similar. And what that does is that gets warm air traveling through the flute so that way it'll warm up. And that's why you have a warm-up too before you even start playing in band. So that way the flute gets a chance to heat up and kind of get to a consistent temperature. Because right now I can tell you my head joint is a lot warmer than the very end of my foot joint. And so the temperature of your flute, it's going to affect how you play. And so you're probably going to start off, if your flute is cold and you don't get a chance to warm up, as you start playing, wherever you tune, you're probably going to be off after just a little bit of playing. So always warm up your flute, blow the air into it, play some notes before you start tuning, and then go ahead and take a chance to tune once your flute warms up. And now we're going to talk just briefly about dynamics. And what I want to point out is that before you even begin to do dynamics within the music, what you're actually going to be doing is when you play high notes, first the pitch is going to get a little bit sharp. So that's when you're going to have to roll in on your flute. But the note itself is going to be played louder than the middle range notes. And when you play the low notes, the pitch is going to be quite a bit softer, and it might even be a little bit flat, so you might have to roll out. So maybe let's see if I can just demonstrate briefly this occurrence. So I'm going to play that F again, and then I'm going to go down and play the lower one, and just see the difference in the dynamics between them. And I don't even know if I'm in tune or not. I wasn't even watching for that this time. But the air direction is one thing that's going to change as well. When I was playing the higher flute, my air, I had to think of blowing pretty much more straight across the embouchure hole. And when I went to the lower one, I needed to put more air into the flute. And so I was thinking of my air direction, I was kind of more blowing in a downward direction. And the other thing is the air speed. The air is going to be a lot faster for the higher notes because the higher notes have a higher frequency, and so they have to fit more waves into the same amount of time. And so you got to get a lot more air to play high notes. And it'll be something that will be easy for some and more difficult for others. But that's briefly some information on intonation and dynamics. And so I hope that you'll be able to maybe better tune yourself with the piano or with the band, and that you're now more aware of some of the natural occurrences of the flute.